Welcome to Front Porch Stories, presented by Craig Messer. Back in the hills, down winding roads, and tucked between ridges, there are small towns and quiet hollers where stories live through the people who've called Appalachia home for generations. Around here, history isn't just written in books, it's shared on front porches, at kitchen tables, and in the voices of the folks who've lived it. On this show, we sit down with some of those voices and we hear their memories, the legends, the hard times, the good times, and everything in between. Now, welcome to our front porch. Grab a cold iced tea and let's settle in for another edition of Front Porch Stories. Here's your host, Craig Messer.
Hello, everybody. This is Craig, and welcome back to another episode of Craig Messer's Front Porch Stories. We've got a real exciting guest for you guys today. We've got Mr. T.C. Geyer, or I should call him Coach Geyer. He is about to take over the Cherokee Brave program in Cherokee, North Carolina. I think he's going to do a killer job. I'll let him give you a little rundown about him, and we'll go from there. Welcome, T.C.
Appreciate you, Craig. Appreciate you taking time, having me on, man. Always excited to get on and talk, talk about everything, and especially talk with somebody I've known for so long. I know we ain't really got a chance to talk in a minute since I've been gone. Lord, it's been about 10 years now since I've been gone from Western North Carolina. But man, we're excited to get back up there, man. Excited for this opportunity.
So, TC, tell us, you've been gone about 10 years, and you're, let's see, where did you start first coaching? What was your first football coaching job?
So, really the first time I really started, just started learning, my parents will tell you I started coaching when I was 5 years old and playing, with the football cards, making formations on a Miami Dolphins throw rug in our living room.
Oh, that's cool.
But really, really got started after high school. Went to Mars Hill. Was able to work under those great guys for my 5 years there. We won't get into why I was there for 5 years. That's a whole other for another time. But and then after that, got my first job down in Fayetteville, North Carolina. Head middle school coach, and worked a little some of the high school. Then took a job to get back to Western North Carolina up in Avery County. It was there that I guess, I kind of tell a lot of people that's where I kind of took off. For 2 years I worked under Jason Phelps. And then when he left and went to Watauga to be an assistant, Mac Bryan came in. And Mac Bryan, at that time kind of handed me basically the keys to the vehicle. I guess he saw something and, was basically put me in charge of everything, from ordering to scheduling to, travel, just a lot of stuff on a 26, 27, 28-year-old's plate at that point in time. But I was able to learn a lot. Left there after about 5 or 6 years. It's been so long, I can't remember. But in 2021, ended up in Coffee County, Tennessee. So over there in Middle Tennessee, learning under Doug Green for a year, defensive mind that Coach Bryan had known, and then reconnected with Coach Bryan in Northern Georgia at Lakeview, Fort Oglethorpe, right outside of Chattanooga. And then after those 2 years, man, we kind of felt the tug, felt the need to, kind of spread my wings, and kind of just take a chance on myself. And that's what I did. We took this job down here, like we were talking about earlier. I'm down here, down in the heart of Georgia, down here in the pine trees, ain't much else but pine trees and, pine trees and hot. But, good football down here at David Emanuel Academy. Enjoyed my time down here and, I've really, really grown to love the people, love the area. But, at this point in time, I joke about it all the time, but I had no plans whatsoever to go back to North Carolina. When I left, after I left Avery County, there were no plans to ever go back, especially to Western North Carolina, just because, I wanted to establish myself in Georgia. Everybody hears about, how much Georgia coaches make, and how good football is down here in Georgia. And, Cherokee kind of fell in my lap. It was kind of just, hey, let me apply and see what happens. And, I went up for the interview, and, I'm a big proponent that, you make plans, God kind of laughs at them.
Mm-hmm.
And then too, you get something thrown in your lap, you kind of got to pay attention to it. And, just at the life, the season of life that I'm in, married, got a 3-year-old little girl, 1-year-old little boy, now instead of being 4 hours away from my parents and 6 hours away from my wife's parents, we're now 2 hours away from both sets of parents. And, we're back home, we're going to be living in Waynesville. So, we're still close to my brothers, all my cousins and everybody's still up there. So, at this point in time, it just felt like, it was the right move to make, not, yes, it's a huge step for my career, to be able to take, that job, with everything they've got over there, but also, for my family to be able, be around people I grew up, be in the area, that me and my wife are familiar with. That's really the driving force behind this decision, and we're grateful for it, and I'm excited to get up there, here in a week and a half and get rolling, man, and hopefully get that thing on the right track.
Yeah, so you'll be up here in a week and a half. Do you go straight into Cherokee High School? Like, how's that work?
Yeah, so we are actually leaving. We're leaving Swainsboro on Sunday. We're moving up to the area Sunday. I do not officially start at Cherokee until April 7th.
Okay.
But I'll be there, probably take Monday and Tuesday to kind of get settled. And, April 1st, April Fools, hey, here I am, baby. The fool has arrived, So we are in the building April 1st, rocking and rolling, going to do a lot of meetings stuff. That first little bit of April, and then get rolling on the 7th. So,
yeah. So you where will you be? You said you're going to be living in Waynesville. Do you already have somewhere you're going to be staying, or do you?
Yeah, we got right now, just because of the nature of it, kind of the area of it, we were just trying to find a rental quickly.
Yeah, I mean that's a tough. I mean, you've moved a lot.
Yes.
Did you ever purchase a home at any of your stops, or was it always rentals because you don't know? You don't know.
Yeah, and that's really what it's been. I mean, I've always rented everywhere I've been.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Fayetteville, I had somewhat of an idea that wasn't going to be a long stop.
Right.
Avery County, heck, I'm barely out of college. I have 0 credit to my name.
Yeah.
I can't buy no house. I couldn't buy no house, and too, the nature of it, just knowing, hey, I'm an assistant now, but I wanted to get to that head coaching level, and it was going to have to require, some moving. We have not purchased, now.
Yeah.
This fall, we were looking at buying something down here. We've been out looking at houses and stuff, and then this thing popped up, and it's like, well, it's a good thing we didn't pull the trigger on any of them, But again, saying, I've had the conversation, with my wife, and I'll have it here with you, the season we're in, and right now, again, this feels like, hey, this may be a place where we hang out for a minute.
Yeah.
So, but again, the turnaround of it, just trying to find a rental quickly, and then, we'll start looking at making that purchase, hopefully soon. And, hopefully it's a purchase where we can stay, and, we can raise the kids up, in an area that we both know and love.
Yeah. Well, if you don't have a realtor, I know one. When you get up,
I mean, I think I know of one too.
Yeah,
I mean, I think
I have to throw that. I have to throw that in there.
Absolutely.
Let me ask you, what is like the average? Do you know the stats? Like, I guess nationwide, what is the average head football coach stay? How long of a tenure do they actually have?
I really don't know the answer to that. I wish I knew. I wish I did. I know Coach Brian, he has been, you think I've moved a lot of places. If I read off his resume to you, you'd be like, wow. He told me a story where he was coaching one place, took a job at another place, and before his wife and kids could get moved, he had already taken another job. So, it's just, and it really, I think it really just depends, there are guys, who, you look at Murphy, Gentry, who was there forever, Robbinsville, a D Walsh who was there forever, basically, just retired whenever he wanted to. Yeah. And then, you've got places, and down here in Georgia, it's a lot more transient than it is kind of in North Carolina, especially in Western North Carolina, because people want to get to Western North Carolina as they get toward that retirement age. But it varies, and I think it's really just a preference, you got guys who, they want to come in and they want to take a bad program and build it, for 4 or 5 years and then go find the next project. Or you got guys that want to come in and they want to establish something and, once they get it established, they just want to sit back and, kind of see the fruits of their labor instead of allowing somebody else to come in and see that. Yeah. And, that's kind of, what I thought my career would be a builder. And, but now, again, ever changing, just like this coaching landscape does, it's we're kind of leaning now toward, hey, let's go in and establish something and, hopefully hang out for a minute.
Yeah. Is that something when you get interviewed, do they ask you those questions? Like, what is your goals? Okay. And is that, if you tell them, hey, I want to do something for 4 years, hand it off to somebody else, is that a negative to a lot of these schools, or is that like, okay, well,
I really think it just depends, and that question was asked, during the interview at Cherokee, and their big thing that they wanted, and I, being from the area, I'd kind of known Cherokee has been a very, transient job per se. It's one of them jobs that, a guy retires from the state and he goes to Cherokee because it's a different retirement system and can collect a few more dollars here and there. But, they're looking for somebody to come in and, stay there and, establish something. And,
I think, they're in the conference with Murphy. Am I correct? They're still in the same conference.
Sir.
I mean, they're in there with some big dogs.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You got,
you're not going to be lacking for competition.
No, not at all. Not at all. There will be no lack for competition, in that Smoky Mountain Conference. Of course, you got Murphy, you got Robbinsville, you got Swain County, you got Hayesville, Rosman, and Andrews. Yeah. And, I think, looking at it, I was looking at it the other day, and I think I'm fixing to be the youngest head coach in that conference.
Yeah.
Which, is awesome. But then it's also knowing that, I'm going in and I'm facing these guys who have been there a minute, who have these programs established, because growing up, I mean, every year, it seems like they're talking about Murphy or Robbinsville playing in the state championship, having that ability. But, that's also something that, I think Cherokee has the ability to be right up there with that conversation. I'm not saying that just because I'm taking the job or trying to blow smoke on and make me look good or anything, but I truly believe, with the athletes and with what their girls basketball team has done the past 3 years, the facilities are there, the money's there, and, they got athletes, they have the ability to be in that conversation with Murphy and Robbinsville and Swain County every year.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, from the outside looking in, when I saw you got that job, I was immediately thought you can build, you can have a winner, like a legit winner. And I think everybody, if they really look at the Cherokee job, that's a place that could be a gold mine for talent and for winning championships. I mean, there's no excuse. I say that there obviously is excuses. Things can happen, but all like you said, the facilities, that stuff is in place. Those people support that program. And I think you'll do well there. I'm really excited for you. I may even come catch a game. I don't hardly even watch high school football anymore, but I may come watch, see what you got going on.
Got going over there in the boundary.
Absolutely. So let me ask you, what was their record last year, and what did they bring back? Do what do you have right now going in year one?
So last year they went 3-9, and it was a tough situation for them last year. The head coach that was there the previous 2 years kind of left late,
Yeah.
and Curtis Cagle was actually named the interim in June.
I did not know that.
So they did not really have a head coach in place until June.
Wow.
Which that's that you're already behind the 8 ball right now.
Mm.
So it was but they were in some games. They were in the game with Tuscola. They were in games. So it's again, should they have been 3-9 last year? I don't think so.
Yeah.
And looking at what they have coming back, they got a lot of the pieces coming back. I mean,
okay.
I know their top tackler's gone. I think their top receiver's gone, but quarterback's coming back, running back's coming back. You got some good linemen coming back, that I've seen on film. I'm excited, to get in there and, to be able to take these kids. And, the one thing that I saw that stuck out to me was just they're raw, they're very green in, how they play. And, again, I think that has to do, with the consistency aspect of it. You go from a head coach for 2 years and then you get somebody new and you don't get him till June.
Yeah.
And, that's tough on guys, and, one thing that Cherokee has done that, I'm grateful for as a head coach is, last June they hired a strength guy, a guy who was at Swain for 20 years, who knows what it takes to win. And that's what he does. He's a strength and conditioning coach. And, me and him have hit it off immediately. And, we're already working on, hey, here's what we're going to do. Here's how we're going to attack it. Because, again, that's one thing that, I know how important that is, just not football, take football out of it. If you want to be, you want to be competitive in baseball, wrestling, basketball, track, whatever it is, underwater basketball, even, I don't know, whatever. You got to be strong. You got to be strong, and you got to have a little something about you. And I feel like that's truly established in the weight room. So when I get there, April 7th, I mean we're hitting the ground running in the weight room, and we're going 4 days a week, an hour and a half, as hard and as fast as we can go.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love it. So talking about staff, is there staff carryover, or do you get to kind of, how does that work going?
Yeah, so there is some staff carryover, and that's one thing that is different from a Georgia or a Tennessee school versus a North Carolina school. A lot of times, in Georgia or Tennessee, if a head coach leaves, most of that staff is leaving or is asked to leave also. But North Carolina, and it's it's good or bad depending on how you look at it. Most of the time a head coach leaves, the staff's going to stay.
Yeah.
Especially in that Western North Carolina area, most of the staff's going to stay there. So I know we've got 4 guys coming back from last year's staff. And then I've also got the ability to bring in 2 more paid coaches, which, I'm talking to guys that I know, about those positions. And then I've also got some volunteer positions that, I'm going to try to go out and get some guys in the community, and, I know some guys from my time at Mars Hill that, are from the area, and that, that I feel like will really help, bringing that in, especially, in a place like Cherokee, having a native individual or 2 or 3 on staff. I feel like that's really going to help us, not only, get them kids out and get the kids bought in, but also the community itself.
Absolutely. That makes sense. So you mentioned Curtis Cagle. Does he work at Cherokee? Is he a teacher?
Yes, sir.
There now?
Yep. He's a math teacher there now, and he's one of the 4 that that is back. So it's he was the offensive line coach when I was in high school.
Yeah.
So it's I'm excited. I'm excited. Again, I haven't spoken with Coach Cagle since I graduated. But I'm excited. To just be able to get back and now not pick his brain as a player, but now as a peer and bounce ideas off of each other, and because because he's been around it. He's been around it. He knows what he's doing. So just be able to have somebody that I know who's already in that building. Who knows how the kids are. Who knows hey, this kid's maybe good here, whatever, and to have his knowledge. To pick his brain. That's something I'm excited for.
Yeah, I think that'll be a big asset to you. Him being there. I think that's good. I think Coach Cagle's a good one. I always liked him a lot. So
yeah.
So I'll mention. I want to throw this in. I didn't know where to throw it. I'm going to throw it now. Your dad was somewhat of a good coach too, right?
I mean, let me get some water real quick. So he's kind of made a name for himself. And when I tell people what he's made a name for himself in, that's where they kind of look at me, especially when they know who he is and what kind of his stature. So we'll go ahead and dive into that.
Yeah. Well, let me say first, it's funny
on that.
Yeah. So it's funny because I remember learning how accomplished he was and what we're about to talk about, and then seeing him like he walked in. I think I worked at Frank's with you for like a month or something.
Yeah.
And I think we were opening one Sunday, and he came in. I had no clue it was your dad.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, that's my dad. And I was like, that's like it does not fit, but it's amazing. Fit. So
no.
Go ahead and run with that.
So, he is a very successful Warren Wilson Hall of Fame, probably Mars Hill, soon to be Mars Hill Hall of Fame, and current head swim coach. And again, it's a funny story of how he got into it, and I'll get into that. But he again growing up in Pisgah, you know what the big deal is for any male in Canton, and that's football.
Right.
He was hey, this I'm gonna go and I'm gonna coach, and this is what I'm doing, yada yada yada. Well, for a long time, especially in college, he was a lifeguard, and he was a lifeguard up at Fontana Village and everything, and eventually got to where he was running the whole pool for Fontana Village. Warren Wilson hires him to basically run their pool, and they say, hey, you want to coach also? Well, sure, and so he takes Warren Wilson and he starts a swim team, and did unbelievable things out there. If you know anything about Warren Wilson, I mean, it's not a very athletic minded university. We won't get into all that, but and then that propelled him to the Mars Hill job. And he was at Mars Hill for a minute, and then Piedmont down here in Demarest, Georgia. Right over the border. 2 counties down from Franklin. They called and said, hey, we're starting a swim program. You want to come start it? And he's down here now, and just doing his thing. I mean, he's got I think last I looked at it, it's upwards around the 400 plus wins throughout his career. He's been coach of the year multiple times. He's had multiple NCAA championship attending swimmers, also in the Warren Wilson Athletic Hall of Fame. I mean, just what he's been able to do, wanting to, not necessarily coach swimming, and being a power lifter, for a lot of his young age, had a bench press of 535 pounds, I think, at one time, I mean, but it's just, it's crazy, to sit there and tell people, my dad's a coach. He's not a football coach. And, the question I always got asked, when I was younger, by parents of his swimmers, well, do you swim? No, I don't swim. I mean, look at me, I'm 6 foot, 200 plus pounds,
you are the perfect swimmer physique, TC. What are you talking about?
I'm not built to go through the water very fast. I'm built to get on an inner tube and float with something cold in my hand. That's it. That's what I'm built to do. But, and then, people say, well, your dad's a coach. Does he coach football? No, he coaches swimming. And, again, they see him and they're like, he coaches swimming. Yes, he does. Believe it or not,
Yeah.
He's a swim coach. He knows what he's doing. But he's bought into it. I mean,
Yeah.
he has bought into it since he started, and it's still awe inspiring to me to be able to see what he does firsthand.
Yeah. I think it's awesome. I think it's awesome.
Oh
Well,
yeah.
man, this has been a great interview. I got to ask you my last three questions, and then
Yes,
we'll
sir.
let you go. So one, what is your favorite TV show of all time?
Favorite TV show of all time. All right, I'm gonna have to. I've been thinking about this. And this may, some people may kind of, whoa, what is that? But there's a show, Queen of the South, that came out quite a few years ago. I actually watched it on Netflix quite a few years ago. But it's about this lady who gets caught up in the drug cartel in Mexico and ends up running it. And for some reason, I don't know if again, I don't want to get into why it was interesting to me. Maybe maybe it's a sign. I hope not, but who knows? But it was just, it was one of those shows that I could not stop watching. I could not stop watching. Just watching all the everything of it. Now I think, hey, I may be an expert in drug cartel. Maybe that's what I'll go into if football. So,
Pablo up there.
That's it. That's it.
All right, our next one, favorite movie of all time.
Favorite movie. Now this is a tough one, and this one's going to tie more into what people would probably expect. But
Okay.
I would have to say favorite movie of all time has got to be Remember the Titans.
Okay.
Cannot beat Denzel and Remember the Titans.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just one of those classics. One of those that every year at the start of football season, I find myself let's turn that on and get pumped up for it. So
yeah, it's a good movie. Good movie. Last one, favorite singer or musical artist of all time.
Got to go with Western North Carolina, man. Got to go with my guy Luke Combs.
I'm not shocked. I'll just say that.
So I mean, I have been told by some people, I tend to share a resemblance with him.
The beard's kind of similar, which I
I mean, he's a little bigger than me, but again, I keep my wife keeps cooking good. I may be up there around him. I hope not, but
there was yeah, that's funny. There was before he was like real big, as in famous big. Me and my wife, we went to a thing. It was like a festival. This has been years ago. It's been a long time. And he was one of like the small stages. We went because Kenny Chesney was going to be singing on the beach, and I was like, I can't pass that up. So
you a Kenny Chesney guy, baby.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's just not. I'm not skipping that. But Luke, he played at like lunchtime on a little stage. I don't know. I didn't go see him. Barely knew who he was. But later that night, I was getting a water, a Pepsi or something. I don't remember. And a guy was like, "Are you Luke Combs?" And I was like, "Huh?" I didn't even know. I didn't know. Like,
didn't know that.
And I was like, "No." And he was like, "Oh man, people would think you're Luke Combs." And I started thinking about it, and I was like, and I looked him up, and I was like, if I get one of those black shirts, and like would have wore that to that thing. And you know how people are at these concerts. They don't. Oh, yeah. They're already, seeing things.
Already.
I mean, I would have probably had been in pictures, signing autographs. I mean, I was like, that would have been hilarious.
No. Well, and I'll tell you this, back when we were up in at Lakeview Fort Oglethorpe, 99.9 Kids Country actually had a contest. Luke Combs looked like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, it'd be funny if we entered that. Well, sure enough, my wife was like, go out here on the porch. So I go out there on the porch, and then we take a picture and she puts it in. And I don't know how it happened, but I still think I got robbed somehow. But so somebody ended up winning it. But I was like, I ended up like third place in the whole thing, man.
That's
and
pretty
I was
good.
Like, I mean, so, I mean, who knows? I may pull up to Asheville with a shirt on one day while I'm up there and say, hey, I'm back.
I'm back.
You give me everything free. But nah, man, just, one, with him being from the area,
Yeah.
and just I like his songs, man. It
Yeah.
reminds me of growing up there. Everything he sings about, kind of hits home, man. So
Yeah. All right, man. Well, I appreciate your time. I'm looking
yes,
forward to
sir,
your
brother.
football season. I would love to get you on again, maybe closer to the season,
Come on now.
and get a little update how things are going. But
Brother.
once again, you've been a good interview, and appreciate your time.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you, brother.
All right. Thanks, man.
Ma'am.
Hey y'all, I'm Craig Messer, local realtor with Better Homes and Gardens Real Estate Heritage out here in beautiful Haywood County, North Carolina. We've got 2 offices to serve you, one in Maggie Valley and one in Canton. If you are looking to buy or sell, this is the perfect time to do so, and Western North Carolina is the greatest place that you can do it. Western North Carolina is what we like to call God's country. We've got beautiful mountains, beautiful valleys, beautiful rivers, great people, great downtown scenes, great schools with some of the greatest rivalries in all of the Southeast. I'm a local. I was born here and raised here, went to school here, I go to church here, and now I'm raising my own family here. And I can attest that there's nowhere else that I would rather be. And if you're looking to buy or sell, reach out to me and let's start this journey together. Whether you want to be up on the mountaintop or down here in the valley, we can find a place for you.